Hello everybody and welcome back to the School of Hard Knocks. My name is Equinox, previously of the guild Everything Purple and briefly Salt Miners Union. And today we're going to talk about Staff Elementalist, the King's Quest of GvG classes. So I'll preempt this video talking about the Staff Ele's role and how I believe it should be played in GvGs to best fulfill its job. Staff Elementalist is a very versatile role, as should be obvious. The class in general is very versatile. You have crowd control effects, you have damage, and you have sustain. And because of the Staff Elementalist's point-and-click nature, throwing circles all over the place, it also has the additional ability to zone. But the problem with many people's initial approach to Staff Elementalist is the water fields, and believing that it is a healer or a support-only class, which is completely false. The Staff Elementalist's main role is mostly crowd control and zoning. Everything beyond that is an additional part of the role, but I think first and foremost, crowd control is the #1 thing that the Staff Elementalist has to offer because of soft CCs such as the chill field and the immobilize on shockwave, and then hard CCs such as the unsteady ground and the static field, which can all be cast at 1200 range. Because of this reason, the Staff Elementalist is best played as an aggressive class, and because of the access to cantrips with Lightning Flash and Mistform, you can get away with playing more aggressively than a Necromancer. And you should be using your cantrips with that goal in mind. You have to realize if you're approaching the Staff Elementalist as a healer, that your only two heals are your Geyser and your Healing Rain, which have a 20-second and 45-second cooldown respectively. So beyond using those two skills when appropriate, there's a myriad of other skills you should be using between those cooldowns. So with that said, I'd like to thank Gaby from the 9th Legion for giving me her footage. And let's get a look at that. Alright, so here we're kicking off the round. So you can see on the bar, Gaby is using Lightning Flash, Mistform, and Ice Bow. Certainly good options here. One thing I don't like from the start is that she uses both of her crowd control effects and not saving the cooldowns to use separately. And of course she wasted that Lightning Flash there. I'm not sure what the logic behind that was. Going for the Meteor Shower early on, which isn't bad. Personally, I prefer to use my Meteor Showers on down states. I feel like that's when they're the most effective. But if you were trying to predict a push, that can also be a good time to drop a Meteor Shower. And moving around, making good use of her two abilities. That's something that you should constantly be doing. Just spamming your eruptions and ice spikes and lava fonts as often as possible. Enemy jumps in. As you can see in this nest push, she drops a big water field and then follows up with an eruption and a unsteady ground and then dropping damage, but she kind of whiffs all of those abilities unfortunately because she should have placed the big water field towards where her melee was moving, which was backwards, and the Ice Bow #4 was on top of her own melee and not being used to hit the enemy melee. So some bad predictions there. That Meteor Shower could have been used, dropped a lot sooner. I think the Meteor Shower would have been great to use here when the enemy's pushing instead of where she was using it before. You should always try to aim your Meteor Shower towards the enemy, because when they try and disengage, it forces them to have to run farther to regroup, whereas your group can regroup inside of your own Meteor Shower more easily or just outside of it, and that's a good way to force the enemy to zone and give your group the quicker regroup compared to theirs. And once your group does get your regroup off faster than theirs, you can quickly punish them. Your Necros can be harassing their regroup constantly while they're on the retreat, as well as the Ellies too, of course. Drops a big water field on the group, but not in a clash, which is definitely a waste. If you're going to drop something for them to blast, then drop a small. If you're going to drop something big, it better be for the condition cleansing, because that is what Healing Rain is best for, and because it's a large water field where people can maneuver themselves to blast and it isn't as specific. It's better for pressure scenarios, and the field priority that it takes towards the end of its duration, after all, field priority is determined by the first field that was laid down, meaning that eventually when other fields dissipate and the Healing Rain is still standing, it will eventually take field priority So it's more effective in that sense as well. If you need water fields then in a clash, then the Healing Rain is definitely the better of the two options, of course. And so it should be used for that moment. Her camera work here is a little sloppy. As you can see, the enemy pushes in. She lays down a nice chill field, then she turns away. Just a little longer than I would think you would need to. Frankly, I don't think she needed to turn away. I think she should have just been in their face, aggressive, dropping 2 abilities where they were trying to push, zoning them out, or damaging them if they dare continue the push. The Ice Bow is a failed attempt as she used it on her own melee, and basically covers their own down state, which wouldn't necessarily be bad if that was intentional. It wasn't in this case, but it's not something that would immediately strike me as being a bad thing if you were trying to prevent them from being stealth stomped. Also, the misform was a very odd choice of timing, seeing as how they weren't in any immediate threat of taking damage, and you wouldn't avoid the Condi damage. So I would have just run towards my melee, dropped a big water field to cleanse the Condis, and then started blasting it with Eruption and Evasive Arcana if you're using it, rather than misforming. So in the first round, you can automatically see something that I'd like to highlight. While I do encourage aggressive play and using your CCs to full effect, that is not full effect because that's not a place where your melee can capitalize on the static or your necros can capitalize on the static. It's far away and it doesn't actually accomplish anything. Obviously, she uses Signet of Earth completely out of range and wastes the cooldown. I mean, it's a short cooldown, but you should definitely try and use it in a intelligent position. And here, I'd like to point out, this was actually the first round I watched from Gaby's footage, and this is the first thing that really stood out to me. This small water she drops in this regroup is literally perfect. And I don't even exaggerate when I say that. That is a literally perfect water field. You can't ask for a better water field than what she drops right there. And anyone that wants to know what a perfect water field looks like, that is what it looks like. You see exactly where the commander's leaping, drop the water field there, people leap into it, they get leap healing from it, and then when they see it, they blast it. When they hear you call it out, they blast it. It's a perfect water field. Just hands down perfect. And pretty much nothing Gaby does in the rest of these rounds will ever impress me as much as that water field did. Sorry, but it's just the truth. I'm glad she's using her ones a lot in this round. I definitely think you should try and spam your fire and air auto attacks fairly often. She drops chill field onto that group. It's a good thing she didn't actually drop the water field. I think I would have made the mistake of doing that, but her melee wasn't actually planning on pushing. But she does drop it here on this down state, which is another great water field here. That's exactly where it needed to be. It accomplishes everything you'd want from a big water field, and it's just beautiful to look at. And then she goes off on the sidelines, finds a lowly Elementalist from the enemy team, and starts hitting a little bit. She doesn't actually get a lot of damage off of it onto them and water attunement, but it's good to see that she is aware of the peripheries. I suppose that has to do with her playing a Mesmer previously. I think that's also why she has trouble landing meteor showers, but that's something that you can hopefully improve on over time. Beautiful static field right here on the downstate, tons of interrupts, tons of stuns, and perfect distance that the commander was able to capitalize on that. And they get another down, which gets cleaved out. Obviously the meteor shower wasn't great here, which was unfortunate. She ended the cast a little bit early. She probably could have gotten some good use out of it later on, maybe. But then she just goes on the offensive, spamming her 2s, which are always reliable, and gets also good damage. And up ahead she starts to get focused with some damage, and her first reaction is not to swap to water attunement and dodge roll, or to swap to earth attunement for protection. Instead, she immediately uses Signet of Earth onto a warrior, which is pretty much useless considering they have Dogged March on top of Holbrack Runes, on top of Lemongrass Poultry Soup. And obviously she doesn't really heal herself. The Lightning Flash isn't really going to help you if you're getting targeted with ranged damage, as the projectiles or whatever's chasing you is going to just follow you to wherever you move to anyway, especially in this case where it wasn't a safe zone that she teleported to. So she really needed to use one of those 2 attunements to either mitigate damage or regain some of the health that she lost. And if she does plan on using Signet of Earth in the future, I definitely think she needs to pick her targets better than what she did during this round. So Obviously at the start of the round, this is something I talked about in the Guardian video as well. Placing down blind lines of warding, or in this case unsteady grounds, when you can't see the enemy is pointless, and you shouldn't really make a good practice out of it. But right here I want to point out something when she drops this Meteor Shower and uses the Burning Retreat. This is a unique interaction between Meteor Showers and Gap Closers, which I have recorded some footage of and will show you now. So I'm going to explain some of the mechanics of Meteor Shower and its interaction with Gap Closers such as Lightning Flash and Burning Speed. You've probably already noticed this if you play Staff Elementalist, but your Meteor Shower casts multiple meteors throughout the channel. So you've probably noticed if you stop the Meteor Shower cast early on, you'll have fewer meteors going down as compared to casting the entire channel. Now this actually creates an interesting interaction with Gap Closers, because even though most people, I think, some people may already be aware of this interaction, but for anyone that has made the logical assumption that the Meteor Shower continues to cast where you placed it before you Lightning Flash away, so if you cast it at max distance, you Lightning Flash away, then you will have, that's a way that you can cast meteors beyond max range of where you're positioned while it's casting. This actually does not happen. The truth is that the meteors will reposition where they're cast. So if you Lightning Flash during a Meteor Shower at max range, you Lightning Flash 900 range away this way, and you cast it at 1200 range this way, the Meteor Showers will fall 300 range away from where you were standing. The targeted location for the cast will be repositioned 300 range away from where you were standing. Assuming that that is of course assuming that you Lightning Flash in the exact opposite direction of where you're facing the target location. Because it will reposition, much like Guardian lines, because when you do cast Meteor Shower, your character is rooted and forced to face the direction of the target location. So what this happens is when you start casting in this location and you were to say teleport over this direction, it will change. The Meteor Shower will not simply move closer to where you were standing previously, it will move within max range of where your character is standing after you Lightning Flash. And interestingly enough, this will create a very unique interaction. So instead of what most people would assume, you cast the meteor, you move away, and so it just repositions the circle, it will no longer cast the meteors in a circular pattern. It will actually cast them in a line. I'll demonstrate that to you right here. So as you can see here, I'll cast the Meteor Shower onto this spot. Let's just use this grass as a point of reference. And what it will do is it'll reposition the meteors into a new area, 900 range away, maximum distance from your character. And a strange interaction will occur. I'm not sure what causes it, but it will reposition your meteor, all subsequent meteor casts around a new focus point. But instead of being inside a circle, it will actually attack in a line. So just watch. So cast the meteor and get like 900 range away, and here we have it. All these meteors, ignore the first two that were cast before I Lightning Flash, but these two are attacking in a line around this point, which is in the direction of where I was casting it towards. Now if we were to try this with, say, a different direction, you would see a different interaction. So let's cast it here and then teleport over here. So as you can see, it'll cast these meteors much like the line of warding, where I faced towards it. Even though I was standing this way when I started casting it, the meteors, as they were pulsing, as you channeled the ability after you Lightning Flashed, are going to be cast in a line formation towards that direction. That's where your character is facing, because you're rooted in place. You can't move your character to try and manipulate that in any way, obviously. So you're forced to have your meteors cast in a line towards that spot, perpendicular to where you're facing. So keep that in mind. If you do decide to Lightning Flash for safety, you will get this strange behavior from your meteors. And you will notice as well when I use Meteor Shower in combination with Burning Speed that the same strange interaction will take place. And what I mean when I talk about using Meteor Shower in collaboration with Burning Speed to reach this effect, whether or not intentional, is essentially you can actually preemptively cast your spells while in the Burning Retreat animation, not Burning Speed, sorry. So with Meteor Shower, you are able to, go ahead and line it up with, where you're going to cast it, which would be right here. And what you're going to do is that you're going to press your Burning Retreat, and while you're in the animation of Burning Retreat, you're just going to press your Meteor Shower twice just to make sure you get it. But it will basically queue up the ability, and it will attempt to cast it at the location that you're trying to cast it at. But because you gap close while in the Burning Retreat animation, it will be forced to reposition the meteor, much like if you lightning flash. But it will be from obviously the start of the channel to the end of the channel. It will be repositioned with that same strange interaction with the Meteor Shower in a line as opposed to a circle. So I'll demonstrate it right here for you. Just Burning Retreat, double tap it real quick, simple as that, and there you have it. The line will appear, but all your meteors, as you can see, straight across in this line right here. Obviously, again, very concentrated damage if you're looking for that. Keep in mind, however, it is only a 180 radius on the meteors. I don't have blasting staff because I was in a DD build. So keep in mind this is a 180 radius on these meteor showers, so as big as this right here, which is still fairly considerable when you think about it spreading across, let's say, this line right here, and having a 180 radius. So think about that just extending across this area. So it's still not really small, but it's not very big either. And one of the strengths of Meteor Shower is the area that it covers and how much zoning potential Meteor Shower does have in its normal state. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you don't want that effect, or if you do, and how to either prevent or abuse that, I guess. And judging from Gaby's footage from all the rounds that I've previewed, I can almost certainly say that she does attempt to use this trick, at least as far as I can tell, and she did successfully pull it off just then when I stopped the video. It's really up to you whether or not you decide to use it. And keep in mind that as far as I tested it, I could only replicate that interaction when you gap close out of range of where you targeted your meteors in the first place. So in the first round, Gaby actually lightning flashes very nearby when she wasn't under pressure. I think just because she was trying to get that effect from her Meteor Shower, or maybe not, maybe she just screwed up and accidentally pressed her lightning flash. But it is important to note that unless you are moving out of range of the location you initially cast your meteors before you close that gap, you will not be seeing that meteor line. But back to her gameplay. She drops a line there on her friendly downs, doesn't really accomplish anything, completely whiffs this static field here. Drops some good damage ahead, kind of misses the lava font, but what can you do? She keeps using her twos, which is great, excellent. Just keep using the twos every time you get into that attunement, as often as possible. And here she goes for the meteor line trick. She does not actually accomplish it. And she goes for the ice bow, which I would not recommend, seeing as how that entire front line will absolutely have retaliation. And if there's one thing that you are going to kill yourself doing as a staff elementalist, it is using ice bow number 4 on a front line that still has retail. I like that she follows up her shockwave with a lava font, because it is a great way to guarantee that lava font damage, which is actually very high, onto a few choice targets. I'd also like to point out that I actually like this water field drop. The commander actually doesn't end up moving into it, but I don't think the placement was very bad, and I don't think the timing was bad either. I think it was pretty good on the move water field that IX's front line could have easily taken advantage of. So I did like that she went to place it, especially since she placed it right before she left water attunement. And why not, honestly? Because the cooldown is actually pretty short. That you can generally use it before you swap out of water. It kind of depends. Definitely better to do that if you're running Aquamancer's Alacrity, which I prefer to do when I do run 6 in water, which is basically all the time. And if you're not running 6 in Arcana, which I actually don't favor 6 in Arcana over 6 in Air. So for my playstyle, at the very least, it makes sense when it's a 16-second cooldown with Necromancer's Alacrity, when my attunement swaps have a 12-second cooldown because I only take 2 in Arcana. So using it before you leave is basically equivalent to double tapping your Orb of Light before you swap out of Staff on a Guardian. Pretty much the same concept there. You might as well just use it. If you are not running a 6 water build with Necromancer's Alacrity, or let's say you're using a Lightning Rod with Evasive Arcana build, maybe better to save it for the next time you go into Water Attunement. But considering the time you spent waiting for Water Attunement to come up, then the time you spent in Water Attunement, and then the time you're going to spend waiting for Water Attunement again if you swap out, there has to be a regroup at some point during that. And if you weren't able to drop the water on the last regroup, then you're definitely going to miss it for the next one. So you might as well get some use of that out of that small water field by dropping it in a position to sustain, or just making your warriors aware of it, because even if the Guardians aren't regrouping, that doesn't mean the warriors don't have the opportunity to blast finish it with their Horn 5. And it also pulses a pretty strong heal on its own without being blasted. That being said, I would like to point out that you shouldn't just go into Water Attunement and use your Geyser whenever you feel like it. You should definitely be in tune with your commander and have a good understanding for when he goes for regroups and when the next regroup will be, and try to predict that and use your small water field appropriately. But if you do find yourself in the situation where you are sitting in Water Attunement for what feels like too long, then you should use your Geyser before swapping out of Water Attunement. And something else that I noticed a lot in this video, even though Gaby was using her 2s a lot, and I did give her credit for that, and it is important for every Ellie to do that, it's also really, really important to actually land your skills. You have to have a good mind for precasting and predicting enemy movement, because as you can see in the video, there are a lot, and I didn't talk too much about it as I was focused on other skills, but there are a lot of missed static fields, there are a lot of missed earth walls. Generally, she doesn't have an issue landing the chill field since it's an immediate cast, but things like Ice Spike and Eruption and Lava Font, which all have windups before they deal damage, she has a lot of issue with landing those abilities. And you can see it gives the enemy a lot of room to move around, and it gives them a lot of opportunities to apply pressure to IX, when IX's casters should be the ones that are applying the most pressure in this case, and not giving the enemy room to breathe. And now, so as to not make this video drag on any longer, I think I will call it there and cover anything else that I feel like I missed in the next video. So thanks for watching. And thank you all for supporting this series, as you have done so wonderfully. I love you all. Of course, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, both for this series and for anything else coming out of my channel. Hint, hint, Heart of Thorns EP Reform. But as for now, I'll see you guys in the next video, which will be Mesmer. I'm not excited to do that, but maybe you are excited to see me fail, which is cool. So once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Auf Wiedersehen.